Welcome to the Mild Opinion Podcast. I'm Logan.
I'm Luke.
And today we're going to be talking about the Invincible Season 4 that's just recently wrapped up and our thoughts and opinions and where we think it's going to go and all the things. So, I guess to start off, what were your thoughts? How'd you feel about Season 4?
I liked it a lot, and I felt like it finally is getting to that point that a lot of people have been talking about as long as it's going on, where it's full-on Viltrumite war. It's like, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of filler, and it's just full, like, storyline forward with everything, which I'm really appreciating, and I like the way that they've gone about that so far, because I feel like Season 3 had some stuff that seemed like filler, but this one I felt like there wasn't really that much of it, and I feel like they did a good job of just making Thragg and the rest of specifically Thragg just seem impossible to beat.
Yeah.
Which, that's always the thing. It's like, oh yeah, there's a new impossible to beat, impossibly strong character, but they really made it like even when like the big heavy hitters are going at him, it's just like nothing to him. Which I just thought was really cool.
Yeah. I think overall I liked it quite a bit. I think this was probably my favorite season that wasn't Season 1, which, you know, nothing wrong with 2 and 3 also, but Season 1's pretty top tier, and then this one's pretty close. But yeah, I agree with what you said though about how there wasn't much filler in this. I think the most filler episode was episode 4. Whichever one, the one when Mark goes to hell and has to fight alongside with the Dark Bloods and Satan and all that. That one felt kind of filler-ish, but I mean, I don't know. I didn't hate it.
I didn't hate that episode. I saw that episode getting ripped to pieces by some people, and when I watched it, I didn't really think it felt out of place or anything, and I feel like the episodes, it's been a thing with this show, which I think is a strength of it, that whenever something feels like it's a filler episode, later on down the line, it will come back. And a lot of times when those storylines resurface, it's directly involved with the main story as well. So I don't really feel like filler is the right word for a lot of stuff, but it's like beginning of world building at certain moments, and then it'll just like rest for a while and it'll come back. So like an example of that is like, you know, in Season 1 it didn't seem really like filler, but with the weird aging people from the different dimension that come through showed up at the worst possible time this season. And I think too, whenever there is something that could be considered like a filler episode, it also does a good job of like showing you specifically Mark's character development and stuff, because he's talking with Darkblood about feeling like he's afraid of becoming his dad and like struggling with all this stuff, and Darkblood's like talking to him about all this stuff. So it didn't really bother me, and I didn't think it was misplaced. I didn't think it was a perfect episode, but it didn't drag down anything for me really.
I think, overall, like, I didn't hate it. That was probably my least favorite episode out of this season. But all in all, I mean, I think it was still pretty good. Like, I wasn't mad at that episode at all. I do think that, obviously, the story is progressing with, you know, the Viltrumite War and all that. Like, it's kind of, like, you know, they've done some crazy stuff with, you know, the story and stuff right now with blowing up Viltrum and all that. And, you know, them just full on fighting the Viltrumites and stuff like that, and where it ends up at too with them coming to Earth and trying to repopulate a little bit there, and the whole thing with Mark at the end. But I do think besides that, the rest of it's, you know, it's getting pretty good too. Other than that, like the way that it wraps up and it kind of just gives you a little bit of info on where everybody else is at now. Like a lot of it's really dramatic too. Like just the stuff with Mark and Eve right now, it's, you know, pretty dramatic. And then like everything with the Grayson family, Oliver being hospitalized, and I don't know. I think that the stuff with Alan too is pretty interesting. Him being the leader of the coalition and everything now.
Yeah,
I
and
think
now,
that I'm like, because I know, obviously there's stuff that happens with that in the story later on, in like the comics and all that. But I'm like, man, we're getting into it. Like all of the things are starting to happen to like the big build up, and like the Battle Beast fight and all that too. Like it's all coming up.
Yeah, and I think this season did a really good job of leaning really heavily into the lore of Viltrum and like the Viltrumites. Like especially there were so many flashbacks about just their ways and the way they value strength and everything. And something that I think I'm just pleased with is with how many characters there are that are kind of like a Superman kind of character, and now the villains of the show are just an entire race of that, and like Invincible and Omni-Man and all of them are basically that, just with different storylines to them. They make all of them interesting, even though they all just have kind of the same powers. It's just varying in level of skill and power and experience. So, I was kind of concerned when Thragg showed up that it's like, oh yeah, it's just another guy. It's just another strong guy. But then after having him for a few episodes and the way the other Viltrumites, I would say fear him, but it's like a respect. It's like a fear in a respect way, because they like respect how powerful and strong he is, and they see him as like their sworn leader. I just feel like they make what is at risk of being a very one-dimensional thing for a lot of the Viltrumites very like fleshed out for all of them. So that's a huge strength of this season, in my opinion, which I'm very pleased with.
Yeah, and I think, well, in terms of everything that went on, obviously, the last two episodes, episode 7 and 8, pretty top tier. I think, honestly, personally, I thought episode 2 was pretty top tier this season, where Nolan is showing Alan like the history and like the what's like effective against them and all that, and then there's also quite a few funny bits in that moment as well. But I don't know. I think that show or that episode of the show is pretty solid, like underrated, because it shows you a lot of like info and like stuff that they talked about before. Because like obviously they've brought up like the Ragnars and stuff before, but like it shows like a real like grasp of like, all right, like here's like this, and this, and if you forgot about it or whatever, here it all is again. Here's stuff that you need to know.
Yeah.
And then like everything like Space Racer too, like them unearthing Space Racer, pretty awesome.
Yeah, and Space Racer 2, I felt like he was the least like prominent member of the group, because you have Battle Beast who's just constantly shouting about how he wants more challenge, and then like Tech Jacket gets a lot of screen time and all of that. But I thought that Space Racer is, every time he showed up, I was like, this guy can't die because he's too freaking valuable in terms of like that weapon he has is just unbelievable against everything.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, on that team, he's like the MVP in basic Viltrumites. I don't know what that weapon would do to Thragg. I think in terms of where they've set up Thragg, that it wouldn't kill him. But in terms of that group right now, I felt like every time he showed up, I was like, yeah, this guy's killing it right now.
Yeah.
And I thought it was, I don't know if it was supposed to be funny. I just thought it was funny that he and Nolan fought like a century before the episode he showed up, and then as soon as they get there, he just immediately is like, you, and still is just holding this grudge. But yeah, and I really enjoyed just watching that team come together, and when they were fighting the Viltrumites and had that huge brutal battle with them. That was awesome. That was probably my favorite episode of the season, because even though it's like it had a really good balance of like driving the story forward and like character development being lore heavy and just action packed, looking awesome the whole time.
I think another episode that was pretty solid, but I don't know, I didn't love it as much as a lot of people did. It would have been what, episode 6, Yeah, I think so. The conquest fight was that 5 or 6? I don't remember.
I think that was 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
Yeah, because the episode after that was when they were camping out and having
yeah,
Mark recover.
yeah,
But yeah, episode 5, the conquest fight. I liked it. It was another conquest fight, and then he dies and everything. Like pretty iconic, pretty big moment. But also at the same time, I'm just like I don't know. I didn't love the fight itself. I was just kind of like, oh well, they're kind of just hitting each other. He pulls Mark's guts out. Mark strangles him.
yeah.
Um, I don't know. And then like the other parts of that fight too, like Alan and Tech Jacket, that wasn't really much to write home about. I don't think.
No.
Like, it was. I don't know. Well, I liked it. Like I'm not saying I hated it, but I'm just like I feel like a lot of people are like really hyped over that, and I was like the stuff that's happening is pretty cool. Like story wise, like oh yeah, like he's back. They're fighting again. Like all the things. But I was just like in terms of the show itself, it's like this season alone, I think there's 2 or 3 episodes that are way better than that.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I think that's probably on my lower end of episodes as well. I also don't really. I feel like with the Secwoods thing when that finally came up, I feel like the only really valuable parts of that to me, like I don't really care about the threat that they pose because like they're obviously not going to be winning, but I think the most valuable parts of that are like showing Mark being less hesitant towards killing people and like worrying about becoming Omni-Man and what is going or like what's going on with Robot basically.
Yeah.
And that's something else I wanted to bring up. And I'm not going to get too much into this because like I've only read to a certain point in the actual comic books and I don't want to spoil it for anybody like who hasn't read any of the comic books, but so I'm not gonna like say too much about it. But the road that I know Robot goes down on, I think him and Monster Girl ending up in that dimension where time moves fast comparatively to like when they're on Earth. So the next time we'll see them, I feel like for them it will have been a long time. And in the trajectory of Robot's story and the whole thing with Monster Girl's whole weakness being that she gets younger each time she uses her powers. I'm just curious to see the next time we see them, what will they look like and what will they be like? Because they're going to be different.
Yeah. I think, I'm curious about that too. I know, kind of like what you're talking about. I'm not going to spoil anything for what ends up happening, but in the comics to where it ends up at, they, are different, which it's all kind of different anyway, just the trajectory of the story. I think the Viltrumite War story and like what happens throughout the whole thing is similar, but there's like the small stories that branch off a lot. Those are kind of what's different in the comics.
And the weird thing too is like with the Viltrumite War, like right now that's the main story, but a lot of these little world building stories that they keep setting up or things that don't have to do with the Viltrumite War later become more or will become more prominent to the main storyline. Not like just, oh, the Viltrumite War is just a one and done thing. Like that's the whole Viltrumite stuff goes on through the story. Like that's the story. But all of these things that people will call like filler episodes and all that will eventually circle back, and usually they come back stronger than the first time they did,
And I think, that's kind of where it's going, because obviously where we're at right now, the actual what you would think of is like the Viltrumite War and all that is kind of coming to a head. Like next season will probably be what I would assume would be the end of it, where, you see the last stand and everything coming together and all that.
I could see that honestly being a thing that just Mark is struggling with for probably like the first half or whatever of season 5 of knowing what's going on. Probably Alan and whoever poking him about it, being like, have you heard anything about Viltrumites? And I'm assuming he's probably going to be saying no for a while. And then, like, I don't really know how that's going to pop off, but it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
There's not really an easy way for Mark to do anything at all right now about it. That's like the whole point of that last scene, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the things that's difficult because, like, we're not trying to ruin it for people who haven't seen everything.
Yeah.
But, like, also, with, like, some shows and stuff like that that don't have, like, a comic or it's not like, you know, set in stone. Like they kind of branch off from like the boys and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The boys is not very faithful to the comics at all. So like
Mm-hmm.
we can speculate about like what was happening in the boys and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah.
Like with this, it's been pretty faithful. Not, you
It's
know,
been
100%, but like,
Yeah.
you know, so for this, like we can't really be like, oh, well, it might be this or it might be that because we
Yeah.
kind of know already. So like
Mhm.
without being like, oh yeah, this is what's gonna happen, you know, like it's kind of hard. But, like right now, we're just like, yeah, like
Yeah.
we know what this is, but we're not gonna, you know, straight up say it. I guess just
Yeah.
because like if you want to read it, you can go read it for yourself before the show comes out. But
And they have made like they've made the changes they've made have not been incredibly detrimental to the story in any way. I think right now the one that everybody's talking about is like Tech Jacket being gender swap,
yeah,
which having not read really to a point where Tech Jacket's prominent in what I've read at least, I'm not really bothered by that. And I still thought she was a good character in this season. Just kind of, it's like you said, she's just like another fighter.
yeah,
Like there's not a huge special part of that character yet.
yeah. I think the main difference with the Tech Jacket stuff here, which Tech Jacket has a whole bunch of extra lore and stuff. Tech Jacket have their own comics and stuff, so like a lot of what people are drawing from is like the other Tech Jacket lore and stuff like that. But I think in terms of storyline, it doesn't really matter because I mean maybe later on down the line when stuff gets a little bit different it will. But I mean at where we're at now, like show wise, it doesn't really matter. It's a little different because also I think the biggest thing with Tech Jacket's stuff is that Tech Jacket's like comic story and stuff with like the male Tech Jacket, his story is a little bit darker than what it seems like this is, which is fine because like I said, that's its own whole lore and stuff, which I do think that if they were ever at all interested in it, they could have gone the traditional route and then made Tech Jacket like his own thing just because him in the comics, he's pretty sick. The lore and stuff, the stuff they have him do, it's pretty sick.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean, they can do their own thing with, you know, with whatever. Because also, in terms of, you know, the team itself, like the team that was going into the Viltrum War and stuff like that, I mean, in the comics, they were all male. Yeah, it was a whole male team. So I mean, yeah, you know, having her be Tech Jack instead, not a bad thing. I don't think in terms of the show at least.
Yeah, and I also want to touch on just it's like we're talking about that team right now. I don't really have like a specific thing to say about it, but I really liked Oliver this season a lot, and I felt like in season 3, he just seemed more dangerous to me and having more opportunity to kind of be swayed towards just being violent and reckless. And I feel like he still has that streak, but it's more toned down into just a little like hot on the trigger to jump into action and stuff, as opposed to being outright violent and not understanding why it's wrong what he did. So I'll be excited to see how him literally losing his arm plays into him. I honestly don't think it'll affect him a ton other than making him a little more serious, just because I don't think there needs to be another like brooding dark character like that. But I'll be excited to see more of him, and I really enjoyed his character a lot this season.
I did as well, and I think it is interesting too, because I mentioned a little bit earlier just how like it's becoming a lot more dramatic with everything that's happening. But I do think it's interesting now that we're also going to get that part of it where he'll be surrounded by like his family and stuff as well, which it won't be as divided since it appears that Nolan is weaseling his way back into the picture.
Yeah.
So I think being surrounded by everybody at the same time instead of just like it being separated or like, because like he had not seen Nolan since he was like a baby.
Yeah.
Before now, or before everything happened, before the war happened. So I mean, I think that will play into it quite a bit too. I think that's kind of interesting, which it's all part of the dramatic side.
Yeah. Something I was gonna ask you after this season, because I feel like there's so many. There were already, but there are so many characters right now in the mix and like different storylines of what's going on. But I was gonna see, out of we have had like the Adam Eve special, and I doubt that that'll be the only one they'll do. I just don't want them to start overdoing the specials like that.
Yeah.
But I could see every couple seasons them doing that. So I was gonna see like if they were to do another special, who's like a character, of all the characters we've been introduced to so far that you'd like to see get a special.
So I have a few that I've kind of thought of before. I think the obvious one would be Tech Jacket, just because they have their own comics, super lore heavy. But another one that I think would be really good, like a really cool one to do, would be Battle Beast, because they have a lot of lore that is like not talked about. Like because Battle Beast has their own comics as well, but their lore is like kind of crazy. And in the show, they don't really talk about what Battle Beast does that much, but like
he just kind of shows up and like it's like I want to find the strongest.
Yeah, but the Battle Beast lore is kind of crazy, so I think that one would be kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Just to see what happens with that.
Maybe like just how he got to be the strongest.
Yeah.
Because they said that he just now is looking for the ultimate opponent, basically. Yeah. So yeah.
But yeah, I think that one would be pretty cool. I mean, I think there's a case for a lot of. I mean, anything about Space Racer. The only problem with Space Racer is that, I mean, you can only go so far with what it is that you show, because other than his encounter with Nolan, we kind of know what he was up to. You know what I mean? Because like he was captured, or not captured. He was just thought to be dead. He was stuck. Yeah. Stuck for
a while.
For a long time, and then other than that, he was kind of just helping out with Coalition stuff. Not the Coalition itself, but
for sure,
messing up Viltrumites and whatnot, which is what got him there in the first place. So I mean, I think it'd be cool because you would see like Space Racer lore, plus you'd see him in like the old time Viltrumite stuff. Viltrumites at full power.
Yeah. Why they see him as such a big threat.
Yeah. So you'd see that, but I don't think like the story wise, I don't know if you'd get anything super valuable from that.
Yeah. Well, I think too with the Viltrum stuff, they could definitely just be like, here's a Viltrum special, and it could be about like young Nolan or like Nolan's parents or Thragg's training or something like that.
Like Thetis.
Yeah.
Thetis and Argyle special.
Yeah. They could do. I think one that they could do, but I don't think it would be necessary at this point because you kind of get the gist already. Is like Robot. Like, how did he initially become the way he became? And then other than that, like a lot of the characters we've just already gotten their backstory and like flashbacks and stuff. Like I would say Cecil, but there's already been whole episodes centered on his backstory and flashbacks all about him, everything like that. I just think that there's an opportunity in making specials to really take a character that hasn't really popped off that hard and then elevate them to a new level ahead of a season where they might be more prominent.
Yeah.
And with like the Adam Eve special, I thought it was just a really cool. First of all, the animation was awesome in that, but it was just a cool world building kind of different avenue to go down with Invincible stuff, which I thought was really cool when they did that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's like other characters and stuff who would make good ones. Like, I mean, you could do a whole thing about like Brit too, just because Brit has his own comics and stuff, and he's actually pretty cool. But like, over like Battle Beast or over like Tech Jacket, no one really cares about Brit, so why would you do that? You know what I mean? Over like
Bulletproof.
Yeah,
Black Samson.
Yeah. Like you could do it over people like that who have their own stories and comics and stuff. But like, why would you?
I think the one that I'll throw out, because I just like this storyline whenever it shows up. It's not like my favorite, and I feel like this season it wasn't pushed forward that much. But I think one special that they could do would be about Titan. But not like a flashback backstory thing, just kind of
his own thing.
Yeah, like what is this organization doing in the midst of this, and just do a one-off story about that, because I always think he's a cool character when he shows up.
Yeah.
Just doesn't have to be super heavy on Machine Head or like the dragon guy. I forget what his name is, but I like that underground criminal superhero or supervillain kind of thing going on there.
Yeah, I think that would be a pretty cool one.
Yeah. And then also I think Damien Darkblood would be a cool one, like a cool avenue to explore, like maybe how he started working for Cecil and initially what the deal was, and then maybe even like him working his way back into a position on Earth now.
Yeah. I think one that would be kind of cool, we've seen a lot about it already, and a lot of people hate this character, which that's fair. But before everything happened and before he got destroyed a million times, I think like a flashback oriented immortal story would be kind of cool, just because you could see him throughout, like, because they've done this a little bit when they talk about him, like when he's in different places and stuff, like an actual like movie where it's like recounting, like, or like a special where it's like recounting like different times in his life and where he was compared to like where he is now
when he was Abraham Lincoln.
Like just like all of the like his avenues of his life and stuff. Like I think that would be pretty cool, even though a lot of people don't like him because he kind of sucks. But
he's just annoying. Like he's interesting in the place and positions that he's in, but he's anymore kind of just annoying. Also, I don't remember where we left off with him. I don't remember what happened to him in season 3.
To be honest, I don't remember either.
Like, I don't remember, did he permanently die somehow or something like that? Like, I don't know.
I don't remember.
But, well, no, because there was the whole episode where Mark goes to the future and he's telling him about, like, oh, where have you been and all this.
Yeah.
So he must just be, maybe Cecil has him somewhere. I don't remember. Probably somebody might say something about that, but I think that would be interesting, and it could be even a special where it's like 10 minutes at this time and then like 10 minutes in this period of time, and it would be cool if he is somewhere just incubating or healing or whatever, if it was like little segments throughout his life all the way up to just like him waking up. That'd be cool. But yeah, I think the show, it's good to see, is not faltering really in terms of the story and whatnot. Because I know when season 3 started coming out and the animation wasn't like as insanely detailed as season 1 was at certain points. Just the story is still really good and the animation is still pretty good. And I think if they just keep going on their current trajectory, they'll do pretty well.
I think the Viltrumite War, for what it is, like now, and like the whole Thragg being like the big enemy and everything like that, is only going to last 1, maybe 2 more seasons. But everything that happens after that, comic-wise, a lot of people don't like, and I think a lot of that would be weird to... Not weird, because they could do it and it'd be alright, but like I think taking the jump from like, oh yeah, like it was all about like the Viltrumite threat and stuff, and now you're going to this other direction that a lot of people aren't super fond of anyway, if you know what it is. You know, like you're wrapping up, like that's when it's going to start getting a little messy, because then you're going to start throwing in like more stuff that's kind of just like, oh yeah, an episode about the Sequids, an episode about, you know, what's going on in hell with the Dark Bloods and this, that. Like it's kind of just like, that's when you're going to start weaving in weird stuff.
Yeah. It is kind of weird too, just watching the show, that it feels like everything going on Earth is just its own story going on a lot of the time. And then it's like, okay, out to the depths of space and intergalactic war and stuff. And sometimes that comes back to Earth and other people get involved. But a lot of the time it's like most of what's going on is just not on Earth. So the stuff that is going on Earth, which is about another 50% of it, is characters not at all involved in the main storyline. Which is, it's just interesting. But eventually that will start overlapping really heavily, so...
And I mean, then after the straight up just like Thragg stuff and Viltrumite War and all that is done for, you get some interesting stories and stuff that's like kind of different, but after that, like, without, you know, spoiling anything, if, you know, people don't know about it, it gets real weird into what Mark is doing. Like, it's... I mean, it's always been very focused on like what Mark's doing, but the stuff that Mark starts doing becomes a little bit more out of the ordinary for what Mark does. Like,
Yeah.
the Mark that you know now versus the Mark that comes up later is not really the same, and that's where the story kind of shifts.
Yeah. But it's good to be able to say, like, after season 4, I don't feel like they wasted a lot of time at all with the story. So, do you have any other thoughts on season 4 Invincible or the future of the show?
I think, like I said before, I think season 4 is probably the second best season, probably behind season 1. And then I do think that I agree that the way that they're heading, it looks like, I mean, it's going to stay pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really messing around. It doesn't seem like they're, kind of making it go any further than they need to just for, like, money or whatever's sake. Yeah. It seems like they're kind of just being like, all right, here's the story. Here's what everybody wants to see. We're not really messing around.
Yeah.
So that's pretty solid.
Yeah, for sure. You have anything else about that?
That's about it.
Alrighty. Well, yeah. This has been the Mild Opinion Podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.